The evening sky over Fairmont Heights Hotel was the color of worn copper, half gold, half gray, the kind that whispers of endings. Inside the hotel restaurant, soft jazz murmured through ceiling speakers, bouncing off marble floors polished to perfection. Silver cutlery glinted under low chandeliers, and waiters moved like clockwork. Smooth, rehearsed, almost rehearsed too well. At table 7, a man in a faded work jacket sat quietly, his hands folded around a small leather wallet. His name was David Carter, a construction worker from the city's south side. He wasn't supposed to be here, not according to how people usually looked at him. His palms were still rough from a day of laying concrete. Dust still clung to his boots. And yet, here he was, staring at the menu like it was written in another language. He wasn't a man who took luxury lightly. Every meal at a nice place was a kind of ceremony, one that reminded him how far he'd come and how far he still had to go. A young waiter approached, balancing the confidence of someone who thought they knew the world. His name tag read Ethan, early 20s, clean white shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Good evening, sir," he said, his tone polite but measured. "Will you be dining alone?" David nodded slowly. "Yes, just me." "Of course." Ethan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Would you like to see the dinner menu or something from the bar?" "The dinner's fine," David replied. Ethan handed him the menu, but the pause that followed was heavy, the kind that carried silent judgment. His eyes flicked down to David's jacket, the scuffed boots, the faint dust near his cuffs, the kind of details people in polished places notice before they notice a man's eyes. "Just so you know," Ethan said lightly, "the special tonight's a bit pricey, but worth it." David didn't look up. "Good to know," he said simply. The waiter left, but not without a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. The room moved on. Conversations hummed, glasses clinked, laughter rose and fell in polished rhythms. But at table 7, time slowed. David studied the menu, not the prices, but the words. He wasn't a man who counted dollars when his heart wanted peace. He'd worked overtime that week, repaired a hotel rooftop in the rain, and helped a coworker who couldn't climb the ladder anymore. He'd earned this meal. He looked out the window. Beyond the hotel lawn, construction cranes stood like metal skeletons against the sky. The same cranes he worked under just a few blocks away. For a moment he smiled. The city changed its skyline with men like him. Men nobody noticed, yet whose work everyone lived under. When Ethan returned with water, David asked softly, "How's the steak?" "It's good," the waiter said, hesitating. "It's one of our higher-end dishes, though. Comes with truffle mash, about $45. David nodded. "I'll take it." Ethan blinked, surprised. "Medium well?" "Medium's fine." "And to drink?" "Just water." "Of course." Ethan walked away, his smile fading as soon as he turned his back. He leaned near another waiter at the counter, whispering something that made them both chuckle. It wasn't loud, but David heard it anyway. Laughter always traveled faster than kindness. Still, he stayed quiet. He always did. Minutes passed. The restaurant filled. Couples clinked glasses. Businessmen discussed deals that would crumble by Monday. And David sat alone, sipping water, watching reflections of light ripple across the glass like memories. He thought of his mother, who used to say, "Respect ain't something you wear, son. It's something you carry." He learned that truth early. On job sites, in offices, even in the way people handed him change. Respect had to be earned twice when you were a black man in a blue-collar world. When the food came, it smelled like heaven. The steak was seared perfectly, plated with elegance. For a moment, all the noise faded, and only gratitude filled the space. He whispered a quiet "thank you" before picking up his fork. At the next table, a group of hotel staff gathered around a corner booth, laughing softly, glancing his way. Ethan was among them. He leaned back, whispering, "I swear he's paying with pocket change," probably counting quarters. The others laughed, one of them saying, "Man's got construction boots on in a hotel dining room. Bet he's lost." David didn't flinch. He didn't need to. Words like that roll off a man who's heard worse. He took another bite, savoring the flavor. The way the seasoning hit the back of his tongue, the warmth of it spreading through him. It wasn't just food, it was a statement. I belong here too. When the meal ended, David called for the check. Ethan brought it with a tight smile, the kind that hid mockery behind manners. That'll be 52, including tax, he said. David reached into his worn jacket pocket and pulled out a small, heavy cloth bag. The faint clinking sound turned heads nearby. Coins. Ethan blinked, then smirked. Ah, paying in change? David nodded calmly. That's right. Sir, Ethan said, his tone shifting. This is quite a bit of coins. We usually don't. They're quarters, David said quietly. Count 'em if you want. A few heads turned. One woman whispered to her husband. Another waiter chuckled behind the counter. Ethan sighed, clearly irritated, and began counting. 1 stack, then 2, then 3. The sound of metal on wood filled the room, each clink echoing louder than it should have. David sat still, watching. His eyes didn't move, but something behind them did. Calm, deep, knowing. When Ethan finished, he frowned. It's exact. David nodded once. I know. Ethan handed him the receipt, forcing a smile that trembled. Well, thank you for dining with us, sir. David slipped the paper into his wallet, stood, and paused. You're welcome, he said softly. And don't worry, I left something extra. He placed a folded envelope on the edge of the table. Then he walked out, boots tapping softly against the marble floor. $10,000. And a note written in careful handwriting, for the staff who forget that worth isn't always worn on the outside. D.C. Sometimes life doesn't shout its lessons. It whispers them through moments that burn slow. The man they laughed at built the foundations of their city. The man they pitied held more grace than gold. And the ones who mocked him? They learned that night that dignity pays in silence, and karma keeps perfect change. The restaurant quieted down after he left, but the echo of the coins remained. Sharp, metallic, unforgettable. Ethan stood still for a long moment, his chest tight with confusion and pride wrestling for space. He tucked the envelope into his pocket, pretending not to shake. Around him, the other waiters watched. One of them, Mason, the senior server, raised a brow. What's that look for? Mason asked. Ethan hesitated. Nothing, he said. Guy paid in coins. Left an envelope, probably a note or something. But Mason could see it, the flicker of guilt hiding under Ethan's smirk. Coins, huh? He said. Man like that's probably just trying to get by. Ethan forced a laugh. Yeah, probably. He didn't dare show what was inside the envelope yet. Not yet. His pride wouldn't let him. In the back, whispers spread like oil on water. The coin man became a story before the plates from his table were even cleared. They laughed about how long it took to count. They joked about the kind of person who'd waste his coins on fancy steak. They didn't know who they were talking about, but Mason noticed something strange. When he went to clear table 7, he found the folded check stub, half tucked under the receipt. The signature at the bottom made him blink. David Carter. He knew that name. Everyone in the city did, or they should have. Carter Construction, the company responsible for rebuilding half of downtown after the storm 2 years ago. The same firm that donated thousands to rebuild low-income housing. He looked toward Ethan, who was still bragging near the counter, laughing. Mason's jaw tightened. Respect. It's easy to give when a man wears a suit, harder when his worth wears dust. Ethan's shift was almost over when the manager walked out of his office. Mr. Lorne, middle-aged, clean-cut, corporate smile that came and went like a switch. He looked at Ethan with mild annoyance. Ethan, he said, a guest just called reception. Said one of our staff was disrespectful during service tonight. Ethan blinked. What? Who? The man at table 7, Lorne said. Name's Carter. Ethan froze. He was fine. I treated him like anyone else. That might be the problem, Lorne said sharply. Mr. Carter owns Carter Construction Group. He's one of the top contractors working with this hotel's renovation project. You served our partner tonight. The blood drained from Ethan's face. Wait, what? Yes. the manager said, voice cold. And he left something for the staff. Did you collect it? Ethan hesitated. He left an envelope, yes. I thought it was. Lorne held out his hand. Give it to me. Ethan reached into his pocket, slowly handing over the envelope. The room seemed to shrink as Lorne opened it, eyes scanning the check, then widening. His hand trembled. $10,000, he murmured, made out to the staff of Fairmont Heights restaurant. He looked up, fury simmering beneath restraint. Do you have any idea what you almost cost this place? Ethan swallowed hard. I didn't. Lorne cut him off. You didn't think. That's the problem. Sometimes life doesn't test your manners when everyone's watching. It tests them when you think nobody important is. Lorne turned to Mason. You were on shift too? Yes, sir. Did you speak to the guest? Mason nodded. Briefly. Polite man, quiet, paid full without complaint. Lorne sighed. He's a partner in our next expansion project. This restaurant could have been featured in their campaign. He turned back to Ethan. You'll write a formal apology, and starting tomorrow, you'll be reassigned to room service. Off the floor. Ethan's mouth fell open. Room service? That's a second chance, Lorne said firmly. Take it before karma takes the rest. Ethan walked out of the hotel that night with the check burned into his mind. He looked up at the city skyline. Cranes standing tall under storm clouds. The same cranes Carter Construction built. He remembered laughing at that man's boots, and now realized those same boots built the walls around him. He felt something shift inside. Shame, heavy but cleansing. Humility isn't found in words, it's found in silence, in the pause between regret and redemption. And that night, Ethan finally listened to his own silence. David Carter returns quietly, not as a guest this time, but as the man meeting with the hotel board. The manager spots him and stands straighter. The staff watches from a distance. Ethan is there too, rolling a room service cart. Their eyes meet. No words, just a nod. The kind that says, I learned. David smiles faintly, then walks on. The world never stops teaching. Some lessons come through words, others through coins, counted one by one, until you realize what truly adds up. The following week, the Fairmont Heights Hotel buzzed with quiet tension. Word had spread, not as gossip, but as something heavier. The story of the man with the coins had reached every corridor, every break room, every staff whisper. But only a few knew the full truth, and fewer still understood it. That morning, the restaurant prepared for a private meeting. Executives, project managers, investors. The hotel was finalizing a partnership for its expansion. The air was full of formality. Fresh flowers, polished glasses, forced smiles. Ethan was there too, pushing a service cart. He'd been quiet all week, working room service, keeping his head down, learning humility in silence. The laughter was gone. So was the pride. What remained was reflection, raw and uneasy. He didn't expect to see the man again. But fate, as it often does, doesn't ask permission. When the elevator doors opened, David Carter stepped out. Same faded work jacket, same calm eyes. No entourage, no suit, no pretense. But this time, everyone noticed. The hotel's general manager, Lorne, hurried forward, shaking his hand with exaggerated warmth. Mr. Carter, it's an honor to have you back. We're all very grateful for your generosity. David smiled gently. Thank you. I didn't come here for thanks, though. I came to talk about what the future looks like, for both of us. He looked around the restaurant. The same one where he had been laughed at just days before. The irony didn't escape him. He took a seat at table 7. The same table. Lorne hesitated. Would you prefer the boardroom instead, sir? David shook his head. No, this table's just fine. While the meeting began, Ethan stood in the background, unnoticed. He poured water for guests, careful not to interrupt. But every word David spoke seemed to echo directly toward him. David's voice was calm, thoughtful, not corporate, not showy, just honest. You see, he began, construction teaches you patience, brick by brick, floor by floor. It's not about how fast you build, it's about how strong it stands. Same goes for people. You can build an image quick, But if it's not built on respect, it'll fall with one good storm. The room was silent. Even the executives leaned forward listening. David continued, his gaze steady. I've built for men who shook my hand in suits and men who spat near my boots. Either way, I kept working. Because worth isn't proven by applause, it's proven by what you do when no one's clapping. In that moment, Ethan felt smaller than he'd ever felt. Not because he was shamed, but because he finally saw the mirror of his own heart. He remembered the coins, the laughter, the easy judgment. He remembered thinking a man's value was measured in his wallet, not his work. And now, watching David speak, that illusion crumbled quietly. When the meeting ended, David stood to leave. But before he reached the door, he turned back. His eyes found Ethan. Their gaze locked. For a heartbeat, the restaurant fell utterly silent. David smiled faintly. You're the young man from the other night, aren't you? Ethan swallowed hard. Yes, sir. David nodded once. I appreciate your service, even when it wasn't easy for you to offer it. The words landed heavy, not as rebuke, but as grace. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded note, and handed it to Ethan. For you, a reminder. Then he left, slow, steady, boots echoing across marble. When Ethan opened the note, his hands trembled. Inside were the same words written in careful ink. Respect is the only currency that never loses value. And below it, a simple line. From the man who paid in coins. Ethan walking through the empty restaurant after closing, wiping down tables with a quiet smile. David driving through the city at dusk, the skyline reflecting off his windshield. The same buildings he helped build. A construction site in the distance. Men in hard hats laughing, lifting, building, unaware of the quiet man who helped them all stand taller. In a world that judges by what it sees, some men carry their worth in silence. They don't speak it, they don't show it, they live it. And sometimes the smallest acts, a handful of coins, a folded note, a quiet lesson, become the richest stories of all. Because in the end, what we give away defines us far more than what we keep. Respect is the only currency that never loses value. Every story we tell is more than a moment. It's a mirror. A reminder that truth still matters, that dignity still survives, and that no struggle goes unseen. If this story moved you, don't let it be the last one you hear. Subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss a voice that deserves to be heard. Because behind every shadow, there's a story worth remembering.